activist, but also my sister and the woman who is attempting to save America from itself, the great, the glorious, the gorgeous, the incredible Stacey Abrams. Yes. Woo. Hello.
Hello.
All right, my sister, we're gonna jump right into it because we don't have a ton of time, and we have so much to talk about. And the thing that we're going to get into here is something we've talked about a little bit in the previous panels, but it is now one of the most demonized concepts in America. They went through critical race theory, they demonized that, they played around with it. They went through affirmative action, they played around with that, demonized it. But now they're on to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I want you to first explain what DEI is and talk us through why it has become the focus of the conservative movement's new war on Black folks.
Well, I would start by saying they've been at war as long as we've been here. And it's because of what DEI means. Diversity means all people. Equity means fair access to opportunity. And inclusion means having a pathway to the American dream. Well, if you are a reactionary person who has the cynical politics of the right, DEI is a curse. They are anti-diversity, they are opposed to equity, and they despise inclusion, and they've told us this. The thing is, they've been telling us this for 248 years. And you know how long I know they've been doing it? Because that's as long as this country's been around. DEI is not simply something that made itself manifest in the last decade. DEI has been a part of the DNA of this country since its inception. It was in the documents, they just never actually translated it into action. And so every movement we have had in this country since this country's founding has been about making certain that we have diversity, that we have equity, that we have inclusion. And I can prove it. Reconstruction, the first major DEI movement, the first time Black Americans actually had citizenship. The women's rights movement, the LGBTQIA movement, the civil rights movement, the Chicano movement, you name a movement that has expanded access, that was part of DEI, but it began with Black Americans. It began with holding this nation accountable to the ideals it espoused. It began with us saying that the American dream does not belong to a narrow few, it belongs to all of us. And the DEI movement is about how we get that pathway to the American dream, how we remove the barriers that were put in place by those who despised the notions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so when we hear that DEI is about preference, that's wrong. DEI is corrective action. DEI is about holding the nation accountable to its promises and its principles. And therefore, when you hear someone say they despise DEI, when you hear them try to convince you that it is somehow not your right, what they are telling you is that they don't think you belong. The last thing I'll say is there are three pathways to the American dream. Education, what we know. The economy, what we do. And elections, who's in charge. Well, what are they attacking? Well, they started with elections. They started with Shelby v. Holder. They have been going after the Voting Rights Act since its inception because what did it do? It allowed Black Americans to participate in electing leadership in this country, from the very bottom to the very top. And so if you attack elections, you give people the ability, you give those who do not want us to participate the ability to change the rules. The second thing they went after was education. They started with CRT. They started with telling us that the history we know to be true is a lie. If you want to convince people they're not entitled to something, you convince them that never happened. The attack on CRT was an attack on the very construct that in this nation, race has been an issue that we need to understand. And they've gone after it by banning books, they've gone after it by eliminating DEI on college campuses. When they go after DEI through Shelby, through Students for Fair Admissions, it is because they know that education has worked in this country, that especially Black women have been able to leverage education, that Black men have achieved levels of position in this country, and so they've gone after education. And now they're coming after the economy. That's why they attacked the Fearless Fund. That's why they're trying to scare companies out of DEI, even though they know DEI makes companies money. Because they are more afraid of us than they are afraid of losing money. That's a lot of power. And so I will close with this. The movement and the power of DEI is embedded in the name. The reason they are attacking the construct of DEI, like they attacked the construct of CRT, is because it works. They begin by trying to convince us that we're wrong. If somebody tells you that they don't like your name, if they mock your name, do you change it? Do you say, Mom, can I have my birth certificate? I'm going to go change my name? No, because who I am is embedded in what I call myself, and I won't let you call me out of my name. Well, they're trying to convince us that DEI is an epithet because it works. Because 60% of Americans believe in DEI, and when you explain that it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, that number jumps to 69%. They are trying to convince us that DEI is losing because we're winning. And therefore, my fundamental belief is that we don't change our name, we don't change our construct, we don't change who we are because they don't like it. We double down, we lean in, and we win.
Amen.